Today's presentation is entitled Cost and Benefits of Nutrient Management in Soil Health Systems. The subject for discussion is nutrient management as a component of soil health. Three topics of discussion are, number one, to define soil health management systems. Number two, define the procedure to determine cost and benefits. And number three, present empirical examples from farm data. First of all, let's present the types of soil health management systems that we will consider. Number one is no-till. Secondly, reduced tillage. Reduced tillage could be reduced depth of soil disturbance, reduced surface area of soil disturbance, or reduced frequency of soil disturbance. This reduced frequency could be within a year or across years. Another type of soil health management system is cover crops. Generally, cover crops grow between 2 years of cash crops. Potentially, cover crops are grazed before planting the cash crop, or potentially cover crops are cut for forage before planting the cash crop. Another type of soil health management system is crop production with either rotational pasture or hay, that is either with or without grazing. An example of this would be having several years of alfalfa hay between cash crops reduces tillage across years. There's numerous benefits of soil health management systems. One benefit is increased soil carbon and organic matter, improved soil structure, decreased erosion, improved water infiltration, enhanced soil biological activity, and improved public water quality. A separate question is there a business case for soil health management systems? Specifically, do soil health management systems increase farm profitability? To investigate this, we'll use methods of cost and benefits analysis. The business case for soil health management system is determined by cost and benefits analysis. Adopting a soil health management system potentially reduces production cost. An example is eliminating tillage operations reduces equipment, fuel, and labor. Adopting soil health management systems potentially increases production costs. For example, planting cover crops increases seed and application expenses. Adopting soil health management systems potentially impacts crop revenue, either from yield increases or decreases that would be a benefit or a cost. So the question is, are the benefits of adopting a soil health management system greater than the cost? This is an outline of how the comparison is done. In the first column, or the middle column of the dollar values, we have the benefits. If you're in a conventional tillage system and you go to no-till, you have reduced expenses. You no longer have the equipment costs, the fuel, or the labor. So this is a benefit, reduced expenses. Likewise, after you implement the new system, you could have additional revenue. If the yield goes up, you have increased revenue. Comparatively, on the other side of the ledger, in the far right-hand column, we have cost. When you implement a soil health management system, you potentially take on additional expenses. For example, if you plant cover crops, you have the seed cost and the expense of planting the cover crop. If you have decrease in yield, you would also have reduced revenue. So when you sum both of the columns up, benefits and cost, you take the difference, the total benefits minus the total cost, and this is the change in the net farm income. Now let's look at the data and information that we'll be using for our analysis. During the previous year, the Soil Health Institute has conducted 125 farmer interviews. The first project is with the NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service. We have 25 interviews that were conducted in collaboration with the National Association of Conservation Districts. These interviews cover all the U.S. geographical regions with typical regional crops. Our second project is with Cargill. In this project, we conducted 100 interviews in 9 states with a focus on corn and soybean. And these are a listing of the 9 states. The information that we'll use as data are collected from farmer-reported observations. Our information is not from field experiments or replicated trials. Our focus is the cost and benefits of nutrient management. This will include expense comparisons of soil health management system nutrient alternatives. It will exclude changes in revenue that would either come from yield, grazing, or forage impacts, which are not included. This is our analysis is focusing on nutrient management, and we just look at expense comparisons. The data for analysis are farmer observations for nutrients and rates of application. Many farmer interviews reported reductions in NP, K, or lime. And these are the terms that farmers state to describe the soil health management system benefits of nutrient management: nutrient mineralization, nutrient recycling, increased organic matter, nitrogen credits from legume cover crops. And the economics is done with partial budget analysis, which determines the change in net farm income due to nutrient management. Without going into details of how this was done, I will present one reference that has all the information required to understand how we went about the analysis. This is an example of the way the data are collected from the farmers as we conduct the interviews. This will be an example for corn, a farmer going from conventional tillage to no-till with cover crops. When the farm ceased conventional tillage, these were the omitted practices. These are the expense reductions. The farm ceased chisel plow, 2 field trips with a field cultivator. The farm was using a typical row crop planter to plant the corn. Also, the farm was able to reduce 50 units of nitrogen with anhydrous ammonia. Also was able to reduce P by 30 pounds per acre and K by 20 pounds per acre. When abandoning and reducing these activities, the farm began in the no-till production, use these cover crop seeds. This was the cost per acre, $19 per acre for the seed. The cover crops were planted with an air seeder. And this farm example planted green, in other words, planting into the living cover crops with a no-till planter. The weed management, herbicide applications in these systems were the same. There was no change. These are empirical results, 12 farms from our NRCS data, average over 12 farms. These were aggregate. So they were all no-till. Some were with cover crops and some were without cover crops. Looking at corn, we have the benefits, reduced expenses, sum up to $70. Additional expenses sum up to $44.52. We have the same comparative numbers for soybeans. Let's focus in on the nutrient component of this. The farm, the average farm was able to reduce fertilizers and amendments by $34.34. At the same time, there was an increase in $3.29. This could occur for several reasons. Sometimes when the farms adopt soil health management system, they change. They may reduce nitrogen in one form, but they may come and use nitrogen in a different form, will be one example. Another example, if they're planting cover crops and they're going to use it for either hay or forage, they sometimes apply nitrogen to the cover crop. So we see that for corn, the fertilizer was in amendments reduced $34.34. Comparatively, for soybeans, the reduction was $16.91. For these average farms, we see that the reduction in fertilizer and amendments is the largest category of expense reductions for corn and soybeans. However, we do notice that for corn, it's much greater, and this is because of the nitrogen applications in corn. These are results from a 22 farm average, Nebraska and Iowa, from our Cargill study. We do see similar results. For corn, the largest category of reduced expense was for fertilizer and amendments. But coming over and looking at soybeans, we see that in these farms, the average reduction is only $1.42. This is because soybeans, the only potential reduction is P and K. Nitrogen is not used. Looking at both of them together, we see that the net change in income is about the same in each one, about $25 for corn in the Cargill collection, and then $9 for soybean. We see it's about the same thing for our 12 farm average from the NRCS data, even though the components of the expense reductions are very similar, or are not as similar for fertilizer and amendments. The totals do come out to be about the same. Now we'll take a look at summary and topics for further discussion from our empirical results. Soil health management systems entail nutrient management as a component of increasing farm profitability by enhancing soil health. Partial budget analysis itemizes field activities and inputs for comparing alternatives of nutrient management. Production practices that improve soil health and regenerate the soil reduce expenses and increase farm profitability. And then finally, agricultural production with the goal to achieve soil health is a component of economic efficiency.